I do think this is a special moment. I think there's been a lot of special moments at this conference, but there's probably not one that I looked forward to more than this. And I cannot thank the I'm going to say four panelists and include Bob, who's going to moderate the next section, to be together up here. The symbolic importance is not missed by everybody in the room. We're a small state. We have three powerful research universities that have their unique DNA, culture. Gratefully, we have three great leaders, dynamic, all great speakers, by the way, so it's going to be fun to hear this. I think what you heard this morning, you heard the theme repeated a few times, including by Jim Greenwood. At the end of the day, if the life science industry is going to achieve the kind of vision that we're putting forth for South Carolina, the core is right here. Without these research universities, we're not even in this ball game. So, this is a moment to kind of celebrate that. Each of the universities is doing unique things individually, but we're thinking big and thinking about how to collaborate and how can 3 + 1 and more equal 5 and 6. What can we achieve together that none of us could do as well separately? The last thing I'm going to do before bringing Bob on is I want to thank South Carolina Research Authority. The question's been posed a couple of times. How exactly does that relationship work? And I would tell you it's a completely complementary relationship, very synergistic. We will never have enough people in South Carolina to pursue these initiatives, to know all 1,500 of those life science companies, and that's going to keep growing to be part of the recruitment process, what have you. But in the same way that we look to the Department of Commerce as the lead champion for economic development for the state, we look at South Carolina Research Authority as a lead champion for innovation. And so it's a great partnership, one that we're deepening and look forward to. And it is an organization that is got a very strong leader at the helm now. Bob Quinn has kind of a perfect background for what he's doing now as executive director for SCRA, and I won't go into all the details of a signature career other than saying he's had many executive leadership roles, including with Battelle, where he had kind of a storied career, including managing director of Battelle's subsidiary 360 IP, which is an international investment fund management commercialization company that was based in Singapore. He's had other roles such as director of technology commercialization at Oak Ridge National Labs. So, but I want to say on a personal level, Bob, it's just, you've brought stability, consensus, and I think just kind of a fresh spirit to SCRA, and thank you for moderating today.
Thank you, Sam. The case of wine will be in your house later on. Thank you for those kind words. First, a little bit about SCRA. We are a public nonprofit corporation, and our mission is to foster the state's innovation economy. We do that by providing support to technology-based entrepreneurs through grants, mentoring, and investments. We also connect industry with innovators, including innovators at the research universities. And then finally, we enable academic research and its commercialization. Last December, the four of us executed a strategic cooperation agreement, which serves as the foundation for SCRA's interaction not only with these three universities, but all academic institutions throughout the state. The activities implemented under that agreement have three primary areas of focus. One is for SCRA to continue our support to entrepreneurs and technology-based companies, early stage companies, with an academic affiliation. Second is to provide funding and other support for infrastructure that can be shared among multiple academic institutions throughout the state. And then finally is to catalyze the creation and the growth of collaboration centers. These centers will be founded upon high caliber centers of excellence or high caliber critical mass of capabilities, including staff, funding, intellectual property, infrastructure, but all with market relevance, with the intention that this will lead to the creation of research centers with national notoriety, as well as increased engagement with industry, creation of jobs in the state, all leading towards the increase of economic development in the state of South Carolina. Since we initiated these programs early this year, we have funded 3 projects, one of which involves a biopaper and includes researchers from all 3 of the research universities. We also have impaneled 3 committees charged with determining the feasibility to stand up the first 3 collaboration centers. And I'm happy to tell this audience that 2 of those 3 collaboration centers have direct relevance to the life sciences. That is medical devices and population health. And the 3rd area has ancillary relevance, and that is composite materials. So we're, over the last year, have done an awful lot to structure our relationship with all of academia, but with particular focus on these 3 institutions. But enough about SCRA. Let's turn to the people that you really want to hear from. And gentlemen, what I'd like to start off doing is have each of you do a brief introduction, because you're known well in this audience. So Dr. Cole said, can I use my entire time just talking about my background? But he will pass on.
Go first.
But then if you could also then transition to a discussion about what are your core competencies, and almost more importantly, what's your long-term vision as related to life sciences for your particular university?
You want to kick it off, my friend?
So I guess I'll get started. So I'm a surgical oncologist by training background. I was recruited in '94 to MUSC. So I've been in almost every domain of academia, research, innovation, even with patents and licenses. I think the Cliff Notes version of why I'm president at this moment is they haven't figured out how to get rid of me yet.
He's doing a great job.
So MUSC, of the 3 research universities, we're the one research university who's solely dedicated to life sciences, healthcare. And I often explain to people who aren't familiar with MUSC, we are at the crossroads of health and education. Every dimension of healthcare provider, we educate 6 colleges, 3,000 students, and we provide tertiary and quaternary care across the state and region, which is, for example, if you need a liver transplant, you're coming to MUSC. So we know that we have a higher mission and purpose. If you look at our vision, leading health innovation for the lives we touch. Innovation's there purposefully. For me, as a physician, somebody who's taken care of patients for 25 years, for the lives we touch is the personal side of healthcare. And it also, if you note, is not bound by lines or borders or boundaries. It's by those that we're responsible for, who come into our domain, whatever that domain might be. To me, the thing that fuels MUSC, why MUSC, innovation. It's not merely about providing the current healthcare at the best standard, which we always aspire to. It's about changing the future, what's possible for our patients. Innovation, fueled by research, is how that occurs. I will tell you, as a very practical surgeon, I'm all for science, but honestly, if I can't see how that translates into changing people's lives, I really don't care. It's about applied innovation and translating that into changing people's lives. So, in our research portfolio, $260 million last year, it's all about how do we translate, how do we fuel that engine, how do we change the future. So I'll leave it at that.
Dr. Clements?
Thank you. By the way, an honor to be here with you today. Believe it or not, the 3 of us are actually very good friends. We love to collaborate and work together, and I really think that is what this state really needs. We have 3 great research universities, so for us, it's an honor to be here with you.
But Jim, only one of us has an undefeated football team. That would be Dan Cole.
Yes.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers. And the Gamecocks doing very well as well. So we're thrilled. We are very good friends, and we love to work together. I appreciate Sam's leadership, what he's doing with SCbio, and Bob, you with SCRA. Clemson's a land-grant university, so we have a very specific mission. By the way, my background, I'm a computer scientist, an industrial engineer, but as a land-grant university, Clemson has a very specific role. Our job is to help educate the citizens of the great state of South Carolina, to advance research that will change lives, and to help push economic prosperity. And that's one thing a lot of land grants don't really talk about, Economic prosperity is a very good thing, and it's our job to help drive that. Best way to do it is in partnership and collaboration, whether that's higher ed, industry, or across with our governmental partners. But for us, obviously, we have a strong background in engineering and science that goes way back since the founding of the institution. But we've been helping to drive the knowledge economy. So the life sciences, biomedical, bioengineering, we've played a critical role for 50 years in that area. And I think between us and what you're trying to do and what Sam's trying to do, we've got a great future in this state. But it's all about partnerships.
Also an honor for me to be with these fine gentlemen. Let me quickly cut to the chase. If we're going to succeed in bio and life sciences, it's got to be we and us, not me and I. And later on, we'll make a modest proposal for bundling what we do together and making it more accessible to you in the private sector. My background is a health scientist. I started out thinking I would be in an MD, PhD track, but I loved my research so much, and Yale was offering me a full ride to complete my PhD. No money to go to medical school, that I took the PhD and moved on. I came to South Carolina in 1998 as Dean of the School of Public Health, and then I became Vice President for Research and Health Sciences before becoming President a decade ago. Life science and health science is a major part of USC's portfolio. About 1/3 to 40% of the grants that we bring in every year, about the same amount as you, $260 million a year, is in the health or life sciences field. On the educational side, just to talk about workforce for a second, we're one of only 10 universities in the country to have 2 independently accredited medical schools, Columbia and Greenville, largest college of nursing in the state, largest college of pharmacy. We collaborate with both of these universities, of course, and we have something called the KPIC, the Kennedy Pharmaceutical Innovation Center, where we're training not only pharmacists, but pharmaceutical scientists to understand, A, how to be business leaders as well, and then how to be, hopefully, innovators and entrepreneurs. It's a struggle. I know you can teach entrepreneurship. I don't know how to teach innovation, but it's something we'd like to do. The only accredited school of public health in the state, the largest social work college, MSW, and the only doctoral degree program in social work in the state. And so health and life sciences, of course, is a tremendously important area. We do need to do a better job in letting you know, letting the private sector know what we have, what all of us have. I doubt there's one technology that we really compete head-on with. And so somebody, whether it's SCRA or SCbio, needs to help us bundle and market our technologies to South Carolina companies. If you want to make it Southeast, that's fine too. I think the nation is too big, but there's no reason why everybody in this room shouldn't know real time what it is that all of us have to offer.
And I'll take it one step further. One of the things that we do and doing increasingly is engaging with industry, both in the state and outside, to understand what their highest priority needs are, and then tap into that capability base within your universities and within our entrepreneurial community to meet those needs. So it's a market pull rather than a technology push, and that's where the win-wins come in. The word collaboration has been mentioned repeatedly among the three of you by the governor. Let's talk about that a little bit. And first, in terms of collaboration within academia, but then those with industry. The figures that I had were from FY15, and cumulatively you had, among the three of you, about $622 million in R&D. Sounds like that's gone up since then. It's 520 just between the two of you, so it's probably closer to 700 million. That's a tremendous capability base for industry, for example, to tap into. But also, how do you work together to leverage each other's strengths and to encourage multidisciplinary collaborations?
Yeah, and I'll jump on that one first if I can. And by the way, there are so many opportunities where we work together now, and more opportunities moving forward. But one of the ones I love is with MUSC. There are a couple examples. One is we have a brand new PhD biomedical health and data analytics. And there is a huge opportunity in that area. So that is a joint PhD program. But we also developed a expedited path for 9-degree programs where if you study undergrad at Clemson, you can get into MUSC, basically cutting 1 year off your educational process, get into another great research university, which saves the students a ton of money. Those are just a couple areas. Dave can talk a ton about the research that we have going on that benefits the state.
You know, organizationally, for example, SCRA, we all have a presence and voice, and a committed stake too as a part of HSSC, Health Sciences South Carolina, is another organization we all have a combined presence that we all, I think, work hard to sort of push the ball up the hill together. You know, EPSCoR grant would be something that we all three, I think, have a presence and interface with. From my perspective, the future success of this state, our institutions, is about collaboration, not competition. I'm not naive enough to think that in the world that we live in, that you all of a sudden just competition disappears, but I also know that if you start the conversation where you say, what can we do together, then it changes the future conversation. You know, and it's critical that we find where the opportunities for us to leverage our strengths together. So we do a lot of things together, but I think the important message also is that we need to diversify and we need to collaborate and we need to magnify the resources that we have working together. So there's a lot of opportunity. Public health, I think, is if you look at the state of South Carolina in terms of health, whole nother topic, another forum, glad to be a part of, health or lack thereof in the state of South Carolina.
Opportunity.
Huge opportunity, and we work hard to try to find where those alignments are.
And let me take a different tack, because Steve Jobs once, when asked, why are you so surly? Why are you so disagreeable? He answered, because agreement never advances the world. So I'm just going to say one thing, which is everything that we want to do, we don't do well enough. We do a lot together. I'll take just one example, brain science, whatever, you know. We have a brain initiative at USC. It focuses around brain imaging at the McCausland Center, 3 Tesla MRIs using to study how children learn, how addictions can be treated, how Alzheimer's can be cured. We've got great potential partners at both of these universities. Someone needs to say, you know, you're probably not going to cure Alzheimer's alone, but let's take the greatest people working across institution, because we all are South Carolina publicly supported institutions. So it's not because the presidents don't want to do it, it's not because the VPRs don't want to do it, but it's going to take some initiative. And I would argue, I'm going to look at all of you and say it needs to come from you. And maybe the state. I'm not looking at government as the solution, but if the private sector would come together and say, let's take the brain. What can South Carolina's mark be in the United States by doing better brain research? Let's come together for a day and talk about it. I think that's how great things can happen.
And Harris, I think you're right. We work well together, but there's an opportunity for us to work better together, as well as all of us to work better. One area where we have done pretty well, and again, we could use your help, is going to the state legislature. So we've gone together for research infrastructure funding, for endowed chairs, which have really paid off economically for the state. But there's always opportunities for us to do even more.
I think just to follow up on the hurdles, you know, if you look at the culture of universities, and I will certainly include talk about ourselves, the structure and culture of universities have not been built for the type of collaboration we're talking about. The promotions and tenure committees are, what did you do for an individual investigator, not what is your team doing. You know, so get a more outward-facing culture is part of our task as we try to change and transform for the future. But I also say simultaneously on a larger scale, and I say this all the time, if as a university in our research portfolio we're going to live or die by the R01 funding, we're going to die by the R01 funding. We have to diversify, we have to interface, and we have to figure out how to get a better, more facile discovery and synergy with industry. It's sort of paradoxical because in the last 20 years, everything I've seen have forced us more apart. You know, all the barriers, all the things that you have to do and disclose and so forth, they're well intended, but it's, to me, at the point in time where we need to be closest, we're being pushed apart, which means we have to be much more intentional about how that occurs. So it's not a passive thing, I guess what I'm saying. I'm also acknowledging there's work internally that we all, I think, I don't want to speak for y'all per se, but I think you would agree with that sort of thought.
Would, if I might add one thing, that we can learn a lot from countries, small countries that are doing great things. Israel is one, it's not the only one. Singapore, there are other places. If you're a professor at Technion or at Hebrew University, you are credited for working in the private sector. Virtually expected to, but certainly credited and rewarded. And earlier today I made a comment that we're revising our T&P criteria to actually credit faculty who work in the private sector. I'd like to credit them more if they work in the South Carolina public sector. We always gave check marks, but in the service category. If they consulted with industry, we're now starting in engineering in particular and in basic sciences to give them research credit when they work with the private sector.
Very true, and I think my colleagues would agree, it all comes down to having great faculty. And I know we're all blessed. We have incredible faculty members, some of them who are here who are really pushing that. And the ones that are the stars, and some of them are here, they're doing that collaboration in this state and really growing the state. We're thankful for that.
Dr. Pastides, I was talking to Jonathan Zucker recently, and he said that every professor in Israel has an exit strategy. They're all very business-minded from day one. It's interesting.
And you know, the Zucker family's been incredible to this state and to all of us in a lot of areas, including the life sciences.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The Zion being an excellent example. Yeah. So talking about industry, it's been apparently the theme all day in terms of the vital importance of growing industry academia collaborations. Could you give some specific examples of what has worked and perhaps, more importantly, maybe what hasn't? And what are some of the root causes behind that we can learn from?
Again, sitting in this first seat, I'll jump on that one. We're lucky. We have innovation campuses around the state. So that is literally us taking Clemson and our education and research to industry right where they are. So I can give you in North Charleston, our Curie facility, in Greenville, CUICAR, in Greenwood, the Greenwood Genetics Center, and in Anderson, our Applied Materials Research Lab. So we are directly hand in hand with industry. There are challenges in doing it, but it's absolutely the right thing to do. One of the ones I'm really excited about that relates to this discussion today, we just hired a brand new faculty member from NC State. She's a member of the National Academy of Science. She will be in Greenwood working at our Human Genetics Center, which is going to be incredible for the state. She's one of the top researchers literally in the country, but that will be in collaboration. And if you really look at, we are blessed where we sit in this state. If you look at the potential growth over the next 10 and 20 years, it's literally between North Carolina, Charlotte, and down through Atlanta and Georgia, this whole strip. We've got an incredible opportunity in front of us if we're all willing to collaborate and work together.
I think some of the challenges we face are that often the left and right hand does not know what's occurring, or it's opportunistic in terms of interface rather than strategic. I totally agree, Harris, what you said earlier about let's talk about where our strengths are or where they should be and how do we build them. But I think often it's this occurs over here because there happened to be an opportunity, this occurs over here, and we sort of diffuse our opportunity, however you measure that, so that we do a lot, but when you say what's the impact, it becomes minimized. So there are individual smaller rather than bigger, sort of larger scale interfaces that we haven't really quite capitalized on. So if you look at any partnership, and I would include the industry in this, it's common strengths and an obvious opportunity for synergy, accountability, and the ability to have an impact that's meaningful to both parties over time, right? So that impact piece at a larger scale, I think, has been a challenge for us. Honestly, on any particular day, if you pick the topic and it's become an inside joke at MUSC, I say pick the topic. There's so many things going on that are sort of all over the place. We need to get an umbrella. We need to have strategic direction, and we're in the middle of doing that. Integration and purpose are things that, again, that have been challenges for us.
And I would say something that is missing is the private sector coming to us in an organized way. You look at us and say, well, they're all talking collaboration, but when they go home, they're all back in their domain, and that's true, but we view you the same way. You are a plethora of people. Each one of you has an asset or multiple assets, but how can we connect to the private sector to not incentivize us, but if you came to us in an organized way, not one at a time, of course, SCbio, SCRA, I don't know, and said, this is what we want and need from the three of you, we would be there. But it's really, it's difficult. I've got Bill Kirkland here, my Director of Economic Engagement, and he's out every single day talking to one of you at a time. It would be great if there were a bio, private sector group, a council, something like that could better, and I know you're in a competitive arena. I know every one of you would like to be in this room alone if you could, hearing of all of this, but that's not going to be the way to win the race.
Well, there's certainly examples of pre-competitive joint research that in different fields. So the model's there to be replicated.
Yeah. And I think you have from the three of us a commitment for us to collaborate and for collaboration with industry and government to make some really good things happen in the state. We do, as I said earlier, I think we're sitting on an incredible opportunity in an incredible time. I'll give you an example. Arthrax coming into Anderson, South Carolina, massive biomedical company, one of the best medical device companies literally in the world. They're going to create 1,000 jobs in Anderson. They wanted to be near a research university, partner with us to do research and workforce development. That's because of the assets in the state. So companies want to have to be near universities that can produce what we have. So the opportunities, I think they're going to grow like crazy, but it is really sitting down together to collaborate.
Anything else on that subject?
The only thing I would add is that from a state view, the economy of the state, we've done a fabulous job of advanced manufacturing recruitment over the last decade. Certainly in Charleston, backyard, Boeing, Volvo as examples. I feel very strongly, and I think everybody here would agree, knowledge-based economy, of which life sciences is one specific dimension, is got to be a vibrant part of a healthy economy for a state.
Yeah.
So doing that is a different language. It's a different rule set. The recruitment of a life sciences company or enterprise or the building or development of that is different than I've got 100 acres with access to roads format. So it's a different language, and our legislature, I believe, is starting to understand that. But I would say that it's going to require all of us to weigh in to say, pay attention, this is what we need to do, this is where we need to go, and this is help provide the roadmap for that to occur. Because in the highly, highly competitive world of recruitment and business, as you well know, little things make big differences. And if we're always the one-off, the state of South Carolina, we can't quite get our act together to where we are the desired place to be, and it's obvious that we've got these areas of excellence, and therefore that's where it's happening, we'll always be sort of where we are. A lot of potential with a lot of possibilities, but we never quite get there.
Well, Dave, a lot of it, and you were hitting on this, takes strategic alignment.
Yes.
Right? Because we all have great resources. We have great faculty members doing great things from an educational standpoint, a research standpoint. It's really that strategic alignment between the three of us and then the people in the state.
It could be a moonshot moment for health, life science, but it might not, let's face it. SCRA rejuvenated, kind of, hitting pause and then restart with Sam and others' leadership is helpful in that domain. But, if we call, first of all, let me say, I don't think the government is going to help a great deal. Some people say, what's the next Smart State program? And that was a great program. I look at Keith Munson and others here who supported it for a long time, because they'll start pulling back. Well, what about material science? What about aerospace? What about whatever? And I worry about that. So I don't think we should depend on them too much. It'd be nice to have some input and some investment from them. I really would like that. But failing that, I don't think we should give up. But it might be a moonshot moment in this domain at this particular moment in time. It's the only domain that connects all three universities. Jim and I have a lot of other things in common as well, but I think if you want the power of three working together, it's got to be in this domain.
By the way, Harris, I know, and I got here just a little while ago, but there was a presentation earlier from Eric at the EDA, U.S. Department of Commerce. They've been a great partner with all of us to help really get things moving. And some of their investments in our innovation campuses have paid off in multiple ways. So it's partners on multiple levels.
Yeah. One, just to sort of expound on the state and the legislative part, I wasn't referring to asking for money. I was saying, don't get in our way. So how do we do that? And if you agree that this is important, there are things that are not financial that actually are, in the world of politics, maybe slightly easier to accomplish. Say, let's get this aligned so we can, get this moving.
And I didn't mean to diminish commerce by
Yeah.
in any way, Jennifer and others who are here together, but in terms of appropriations, if that's what we're waiting for, it's not going to get done.
No, I totally agree with that.
So you mentioned recruitment of, say, life sciences companies, and one recent success in that regard is Thorne Research, nutritional supplements company that's moving its entire operations from Idaho to the Somerville area. They have approximately 300 employees. About 100 are moving, which means, you do the math, they need to hire 200 high-quality people. The governor talked about our technical college system, which is indeed second to none in terms of workforce development, et cetera. Give some examples of what you all are doing to meet the needs of industry from a training standpoint and to provide the necessary expertise in order to attract industry and also to retain.
I'll jump on one, and again, appreciate the opportunity to go first, is in our facility here in North Charleston. So we have a Restoration Institute, has the largest wind turbine test facility in the world, great partnership with Siemens, Duke, GE, and others that come in and do research on our facility. But with the help of the Zucker family, we built a graduate education center here to produce graduate programs in the engineering fields that Boeing and Volvo and Blackbaud and others need. But that's really sitting down and listening, working hand in hand. But I'm excited about what that will do for this region.
Well, I would mention a new degree program that merges engineering and business. In talking to Joan Robinson Berry and other CEOs, this is the gap. Great technical college graduates. The few doctoral people they need, they find. Intensely trained master's people, they find them. What they're missing are baccalaureate graduates with engineering light. I hate to call it that. It seems like it's denigrating. It's not. They know engineering, but they have important people skills, spreadsheets, team management, organization, human resources, a new degree in that area, and I think that's needed all around the state. So we're not like the technical colleges. Let me be the first to tell you, my faculty will not change the curriculum just because a corporate person comes in and says, we need this. They're not. They guard the curriculum. They defend it with their lives. But we can, in certain instances, develop baccalaureate programs and above that are responsive to the needs of South Carolina, and we do that.
So we have a different footprint, of course. I mentioned earlier we have 3,000 students, 90% graduate, post undergraduate education. But if you look at us as an enterprise, 13,000 employees, 3,000 students in every dimension of healthcare in terms of delivery at all levels. So we partner with Trident Tech, trying to get a little bit ahead on where the pipeline needs are and how can, at least in the healthcare space, can we be proactive. Now, part of that is selfish, of course, because we want to have the best quality people that we know, but also part of our DNA is mentoring, and developing pipelines to have pathways at all levels for individuals who want healthcare opportunities. So we have been, I think, very much involved at the local community levels to try to accomplish that. I would just put a pause button because I'd feel remiss from my perspective not make a broader statement about education in the state of South Carolina. I think it's not merely about pipeline. We need to embrace education. We have a broken K through 12 system. We have some excellent undergraduate. But for us as a state to get to where we need to, when we focus only on pipeline, we're ignoring the prelude to the lack of pipeline. So in my biased opinion, again, it requires business community, business voices beyond sort of merely the biased higher education leadership to say education with some emphasis. I just beg people to consider that.
I want to open it up to the audience for questions, but before I do, I want to give each of you an opportunity for anything else that you'd like to share with the group.
Well, let me just say it's a very stressful time in higher ed. We're delighted to be here with you today, but we are, under pressure for affordability, student debt, drug and alcohol problems among undergraduates, raising money philanthropically, new federal regulations, new immigration. it's a flood of issues that come at us all the time. But again, I think if SCbio and SCRA can focus us on the challenges ahead, I know you've got 3 universities and possibly others who will be up to the task, but we need the focus to come from you. We're going to go home today, and I guarantee you not be focused on life science for the rest of the day, maybe not for the rest of the week or month. But if there's a credible initiative that, public-private, that wants to make this a moonshot type opportunity, we'll be there.
I started by saying that we are the one that's in life sciences healthcare, so there is a lot of stress, and I would agree with everything you said, but depending on what tweet comes out of Washington, D.C., in terms of healthcare and healthcare reform, it's going to affect all of us. And so, on the stress side of that, we're trying to sort of respond where we don't really know what the rule sets are. Having said that, I'm a cup half full person. I believe that, and I believe this strongly. We have a generational opportunity to get it right. With change is opportunity. So we need to leverage the moment and come together to do something that's meaningful and impactful into the future, rather than saying, we don't know what the future looks like. I meet with, in my former job as chair of Department of Surgery, I meet with medical students through the years, and they're always, somewhere in the conversation we meet for lunch, and the question would be, are we in the right space? What's my future? The sky is falling down, and I'd say, okay, let me ask you a couple questions. When I wake up at 3 in the morning worrying about the future of health, first question, do people need excellent health care in the future? Yes. Second question, which pertains to you all, do we have more tools to transform the future than any time in the history of mankind? Hell yes. Congratulations. We have a magnificent opportunity to change the future. So that's where I'm coming from. We just need to do it.
And here's what I would say. I'd say at Clemson, come talk to us. Come visit us on our main campus. Come visit us at our innovation campuses. We are ready to work with you in any way we can. I've got several of my leaders here. Angie Leidinger, who is Vice President for External Affairs. We got our Provost, Bob Jones. We got Chief of Staff, Max Allen, lots of other leaders here. As a land-grant university, we're actually built to serve. That's why we were created. We were created to serve this state, to serve the industries in this state, and to make this state a better place. So we're ready to roll. I said talk to any of us, and we're happy to help.
Thank you. I want to open up for questions from the audience. Okay. I got in the back.
Hey, my name is Mary Lou, and I work with the Office of Rural Health. So many things that you've said about collaboration and working together is so exciting, to the point I'm doing virtual cartwheels in my head. But with a passion for South Carolinians who live in rural parts of this state, I'm going to throw this idea out there to all of you. But we have such a nursing shortage in South Carolina. Clemson has this wonderful Call Me Mr. program, but perhaps the 3 of you could develop a collaborative program to increase diversity in our schools and recruit from the rural communities for students who would like to go into health professions and perhaps pursue a career in nursing. And then we'd address many issues all at one time.
Yeah, by the way, let me jump on that, and I appreciate the comments. We have a great partnership with GHS where we're doubling our nursing output. We have a brand new building that is going up there, and we're excited about that. We also have a place called Cube Inc. up in Patewood that does incredible biomedical device research. I appreciate your recognition of our Call Me Mr. program. I'm really excited about that. It's a nationally recognized program to get underrepresented students and African American students in the classroom teaching as role models. It is a national model. Another one where we're working hard on is called the Emerging Scholars. And we go to certain areas within the state to try to get people the opportunity to get in a college, any college in the state, and to have a path to a better life. So we are 100% committed to that land-grant mission of reaching out further than we have in the past. In the nursing area, there are great opportunities.
And we work with every HBCU in the state to create a pipeline into our graduate clinical health programs, including nursing, of course. But you're absolutely right. And we've got 7 other universities of South Carolina, most of them in rural areas of the state. Every one of them, you can become a nurse without ever going to Columbia. Palmetto College is an online baccalaureate completion program. And we've also got, as I said before, a very popular RN to BSN program. So almost every RN out there in the state of South Carolina is going to need a bachelor's degree, and they don't have to stop work or leave home. They can enroll in Palmetto College. We need to do more, of course.
By the way, I would just add, and Dave knows this 100 times better than I do, we have a moral responsibility in this state to try to eliminate the health disparities that exist, and that's going to take all of us to do that. We do a lot of work with MUSC related to healthcare around the state, as well as with GHS, and we're proud of that work, but we know we need to pick our game up even more.
When you talk about workforce, by the way, my wife's a nurse, and she keeps me fully mindful of, where we're missing and what we're not doing. We actually have online programs, number 1 or number 2 in the nation for the last 5 years in nursing, DNP programs. So that's how you leverage things is one example. But I'd say on the pipeline side, when I first became president, I was asked a question about why didn't MUSC have pipeline programs, and I did a lot of diligence internally, and I kept getting a lot of different answers. Said, give me a compilation. What are we doing? 35 programs, 35 different programs with different partners across the state in terms of pipeline to help in all domains of healthcare, education, to get underrepresented individuals into those programs. And they're not just sort of numbers. I will brag for a moment, given the opportunity. MUSC College of Medicine, number 5 in the nation in the number of African-American males graduating in the last 5 years, number 5 in the nation. That doesn't just happen. It requires with a lot of ground level effort with people over time who shoulder in to make those differences. And in our medical university hospital system, we've doubled the number of African-American nurses that we brought onto the workforce in the last 2 years. Why? Because it's part of our strategic plan, it's part of our purpose. We've got teams set up, we've changed our recruitment practice, so forth and so forth. So I appreciate you highlighting that. I just want to highlight that we're not either naive nor deaf to the problem. It is complicated, however, in terms of how we face the future. I'd make one last comment. Healthcare delivery of the future is going to have to, the model's going to have to change. By the way, when you look at physician workforce, we're training 2/3 of the physicians that are going to be required in the future by best estimates that I've seen. How does that work? It's not merely about number of medical schools. To be an active in-practice physician, you have to finish graduate medical education residency. So as we increase the number of schools and MDs with high debt, and we don't have any attention to the graduate medical education on the downside, on the other side of that, it's like tying a knot in the hose and turning it on. And we have no attention at a national level and at the state level to that pipeline actually implementing that. So what's the future? I'll tell you one thing. We've been working in collaboration with every healthcare system in the state to set up a telehealth network that's impactful. And it will, I will not qualify this, it will transform the delivery of healthcare. As we speak, it's transforming the delivery of healthcare. Ask me about the statistics and telestroke. It is one dimension of, we can't be in the same box saying we're doing the same thing over and over and over as the world changes around us and expect different outcomes. So it's not merely about recruiting, it's not merely about more students, it's also about trying to get a model and showing how that changes and transforms and having an impact that actually provides a pathway that is successful in the future. Because honestly, if we're depending on physician-driven care only, there's going to be a lot of baby boomers who are going to be very upset.
And we don't want that to happen.
No.
I mentioned
We do have one more question.
In a second, I just mentioned these collaboration centers that we're standing up, and the one being population health. A primary focus of that center is to investigate health disparities. And there's expertise at MUSC, at SC State, and all 3 of your institutions and others. That's disparities among populations, among geographies, et cetera. So it's an area of focus for us. Yeah, the question?
Over here.
Gentlemen, on the subject of startup companies, realizing that not all technologies are ready for prime time with industry when your professors come up with them, and realizing from an economic development perspective that in addition to recruiting and retaining, growing your own is the most cost-effective approach. What programs do you have or are you putting in place to try to increase your number of startup companies, which could include conflict of interest policies, seed capital, or translational research funds?
Well, let me start by saying in order to have a company, you need to have an idea. And I was so pleased to learn recently that USC is in the top 1% of patent-producing universities in the world, not only at USC, but in the world. We have an incubator. I know we all have incubators, and we're now providing the incubation at Greenville Health System as well. But it is a life cycle, and I know of your experience in Florida, by the way, and we need to learn about how we can do it better, in fact. But in the incubator, and by the way, it's occupied more by students than by faculty, believe it or not. And you know what their technology is? It's an iPhone. And they're creating applications, by the way, for health and life sciences, as well as for many, many other things. But we provide them basically a year of opportunity, legal, office, equipment, advisory services. And after about a year, we kind of push them out of the nest, and some of them fall to the ground, and then some of them fly. We do the same thing for faculty as well, and we're present in Spartanburg at the George Dean Johnson School of Business and Economics, and at Greenville Health System too.
Yeah, we chose Greenville as one of the areas where we have one of our business incubators. It's a great, thriving area, as you know, but there we have the Spiro Institute for Entrepreneurship, Small Business Development Center, and a whole bunch of other activity. And again, we look to some of our partners, like I mentioned, U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration in here earlier. They're a great partner in helping us get some of these technologies up and moving. And they've invested, and there's been significant return. So I'm excited about the opportunities. We have opportunity to do it at an even higher level than we have.
We have a outstanding foundation for research development, which over the last 5 years has really sort of brought us on an astronomical growth in terms of licensed patents, inventions. But I think that there's also, and I mentioned earlier that we have, sometimes the left and right hand doesn't know exactly what we're doing internally. We spent the last year and a half looking at the different domains that have some dimension of innovation and innovation pipeline, and worked hard now to say, how do we have come together internally so we can have a point and a lead that allows us to fill sort of the gaps or know where our gaps are when we interface with individuals. And we actually, as we speak, are recruiting for a chief innovation officer to sort of head that new structure, which is not creating yet another structure, it's assimilating our strengths internally. So I would also note, by the way, since we're in Charleston, West Edge is coming out of the ground as we speak. And West Edge is a biotech corridor which is proximate to MUSC, and part of that is incubator space and opportunity for people to develop and grow as companies, which I think all as a community and as a state will benefit from that. So, as you well know, for true collaboration and innovation to occur, you have to be in the same space. You actually have to not be, I know they're 6 miles down the road. You have to, it's being together, it's about combination of ideas, it's about that synergy. And so we're very excited about West Edge as it is emerging.
By the way, I do want to point out we have several faculty members here. One who is a 5-star rock star, Dr. Matine LaBerge. She is here. She's worked with a lot of startups doing incredible work, and she will be happy to hang out in the hallway and get to know any of you who have an interest in starting companies or doing research. She's as good as they get.
And we provide funding to supplement the funding that each of these organizations have for maturation of ideas to take it to a prototype level, which is much more commercializable. And so we're taking their funds and supplementing with ours. We also have grants that are specific to startup companies that have affiliation with academic institutions, our ASAP grants. We also match SBIR and STTR Phase 1 awards up to $50,000. And then we have our other suite of services, including seed capital investments that are available to companies that come out of the academic institutions.
By the way, we work, as we all do, with SCRA on a very great level. And I've mentioned Federal Department of Commerce several times. We should never not think about the South Carolina State Department of Commerce. They do a great job in helping companies get started, and they've been transformational in so many ways in this state. Bobby's just done a great job.
I think we have time for one more question.
So we have one question from our social media here. It's on the screen in front of you gentlemen as well. Are there any initiatives to help support faculty startups and the entrepreneurial community in the life science field at university levels, such as incubators, seed funds, et cetera?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think all of us have funds
You're welcome to that,
that we have set up. We all wish they would be more significant in the level of funding that they have, but we absolutely do. And you know, at Clemson, we're really trying to push entrepreneurship, free enterprise. So yeah, we're making a significant investment through our foundation into these kind of activities. I'm sure it's the same.
Ditto.
I'll just say one thing slightly off mark. Bob McNair, many of you know, owns the Houston Texans, and he employs a lot of Clemson.
He hired
and
a really
Carolina.
good quarterback.
Yeah, fantastic. And he recently gave the university $8 million to create a free enterprise entrepreneurship track. He said under one condition: it's not just for business students. It's not just for engineers. My goal, he told me, was for every student at the university, the journalists and the artists and everybody to learn about the foundations of free enterprise and innovation.
And that's the way it should be, right? It
Yeah,
should be,
that's the way it ought to be. It ought to belong to everybody, not in these little nestled, okay, I'm an expert in innovation. We need to bring innovation and entrepreneurship to all that we do.
And by the way,
that was his goal.
many in higher ed have had it within the business school or within the engineering school, and it is siloed.
Sure.
The model you just discussed is absolutely the right way to go. It's got to be across the institution.
Okay, we have time for one short question. Prediction on the game. All right.
I got Clemson over Georgia Tech this weekend. Though I can't really say that, I'm not, so I believe I like our chances.
Tweet that, please.
Yeah.
Tweet that.
Watch that.
Oh, you're talking about this game.
Yeah.
That's got,
No, we're not talking about that game.
that's coming up. We got a couple weeks, right?
MUSC will remain undefeated all year.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity. Thanks. Good to be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the presidents of the University of South Carolina, the president of Clemson University, the president of the Medical University of South Carolina, and Bob with SCRA, they're all on one stage. I mean, come on.